and to put our hands to the plow, to not look back, to be firm and unmoved from the hope that's held out to us, that's made known to us in these very things. And this I pray, he said to the Philippians, that your love may abound still more and more in knowledge and all discernment, that you may approve the things that are excellent, that you may be sincere and without offense till the day of Christ, being filled with the fruits of righteousness, which are by Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God. We'll be able to evaluate these things, this teaching that you're hearing, these words that are spoken, these assertions that are made about Jesus himself, about the Father, about the church, our world view, so to speak. All of these kinds of things, the language that's used and so forth, we have to be able to assess these things. The Apostle Paul, in many of his writings, was dealing with these teachers, those who challenged him. He talked to the Corinthians about those who challenged him, didn't he? So it was present right then. We certainly have more challenges now. So we have to have this. This is part of our help. This is what God, the provision that he gives those who believe in his Son. This is part of the Spirit coming and leading us into all truth, helping us to see these things, understand his ways, walk with him in these things, take hold of these things and handle them, rightly divide the word of truth. All of this language, all of this revelation, all of these things that were spoken, that were written down for us to make us able and to establish. These are the instruments that he's using, but of course it's the Father and the Son and the Spirit that are actually doing the work. The Spirit is making the things of Jesus known to us. The Son is revealing the things of the Father. The Father is revealing the things of the Son. And they all work together, establishing us firm and unmoved, making us strong, strengthening our weak and feeble ankles so that we can stand and walk, so that we'll not be blown here and there by every kind of teaching, the winds of doctrine that men assert to us. But we'll be able to rightly assess these things since we know the truth. We know him who is true. We'll not be easily moved. We might be drawn over here a little bit to something, to listen to it, to consider it and so forth, but we'll be able to assess it and evaluate it according to what is true, according to these foundational things about which we're speaking now, these perspectives of salvation. It's a very large place. It's a very large area into which we have come, and we need to see its height, depth, length, and breadth. We need to see it. It's in the Savior. It's in his love. And so that's why the apostle prays that your love may abound still more and more. Our love for him, our love for the truth, our love for what is good and right, our love for the Father. And then, of course, he'll teach us to love one another. And then the body will work as each part does its work. The joints and the ligaments connected by their bands, all connected, work and the body will build itself up in love. He gave the apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers for this purpose, to equip us, that the body would do this. And we've talked about this morning in our discussion, in our exchange back and forth of these different aspects and perspectives of the truth, enlarging and building upon one another, one seeing this, and another seeing that, and another saying, yes, this, and someone else saying, and what about this? And remember this, and don't forget that. And all of that then working in us and strengthening us. Those of us who've walked with the Lord for years and have made progress, well, even when the young ones speak certain things, we're able to see it from our vantage, from our perspective, see. And the young ones see things from their perspective. Those of us who are more mature, of course, are very concerned about the young ones. We don't want them to misunderstand the things that are being said. We don't want them to misunderstand the perspective from which we view these things right now in this unique place, in this unique environment, with many of us connected in the flesh. We don't want them to misunderstand these things. And we've had testimony this morning about how these things are going out to how many places? 70 some places we send the media to on a regular basis. 70 some different places. And then it goes out from those places, as Brother Given said, the word of truth being reprinted and published 10,000 copies in just one area of India. In just one area. So these things are going out. The word is going out from this place. We're not just an ingrown family group like we may be viewed. I happen to know we are viewed that way in some ways. We're just this little group, this hole up in this house here at this location and so forth. We're not interested in associating with anybody else on the outside and so forth. That's how we're viewed in some ways. But the Word of God is not chained. Amen. It cannot be kept in His people. We cannot stop speaking the things that we have seen and heard, though we are not eyewitnesses. Its power, we have accessed its power. We are accessing its power. It is increasing, multiplying in us, as the Apostle Paul prayed here. For this reason, I bow my knees to the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, from whom the whole family in heaven and on earth is named, that He would grant you according to the riches of His glory. That's what we're dealing with here. That's our storehouse, if you will. The riches of His glory. He's just mentioned that in the previous section, that in the ages to come, He will pour out upon us the riches of His grace, riches of His glory, different aspect, or different perspective, according to the riches of His glory, to be strengthened with might through His Spirit in the inner man. I have been, by you brethren. He has worked that in us. He's working that in us more. That Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. Of course, we have this protection and this comfort, this fellowship and assurance. And we've been called into fellowship with His dear Son, and by Him then with the Father Himself. And the Spirit works in those who have fellowship with the Father and the Son. The Spirit is glad to dwell. That's His work, is to dwell in them and among them. Amen. That you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the width and length and depth and height, to know the love of Christ which passes knowledge, that you may be filled to all the fullness of God. Now that's a big target, big objective. That's what's going on. We're not talking about filling a building here. We're not talking about anybody's career. We're not talking about a reputation and name for us in the community. Not at all. Now that'll happen. Those things may very well happen, but that's not our target. That's not our target. He has set the target for us. Remember what He said to Abraham, don't be afraid. I am your exceeding great reward. We've forfeited every other objective, brethren. Every other, even the good ones, are at best down the list of priorities. We have forfeited all others for this one. And the words of this text is simply enlightening us to the means by which He's working these things. These are the instruments. These are the tools that He's using. We have access to these things. We have the prophetic word made more sure. We have it. Amen. Give heed to it. It's a light shining in the dark. That's right. How many people are looking for some light? Wondering where they're at. On where I'm at. What's going on here? Where are we going? What's happening here? We associate with people every day who think that way, and some of them religious people. Some of them wandering and stumbling around. I remember when I did. Wandered and stumbled around. There are times, certainly, when I still don't know for sure. Still don't know, but I have confidence that He will show the way. Even if it's a half step at a time. Even if it's a half step at a time. And so, brethren, the day dawns and the day star arises. That's what happens in His people. Now, He doesn't give us a method for this, does He? No, there's no method, particular step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Just like there's no method for these little ones growing. There's no particular method. Whether we're talking about Jordan or Jacob or Journey, or Seth. What method? What was the method by which Seth and Journey learned how to walk, and Jordan, they've learned how to walk? What was the method by which they did that? They watched us walk, didn't they? And it was just life, the life in their little bodies. They just wanted to get up and go. And they fall down and they bash their heads and they smash their lips and bloody their noses. They get right back up again. After they cry and sit for a while, they get right back up. Even so, the Spirit works this in us. It's His life He's put in us. The light of life that works in His people. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify of you these things in the churches, He said to John. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright morning star. He is the source. There is no other. There is no other. And it doesn't matter about the worldly, earthly, fleshly environment, those who have rejected His truth, this revelation, those who refuse to see the light. It doesn't matter about them. The light will shine. It will shine. This is not a matter of our philosophy that we have chosen, that we have developed through some kind of human rationale and through our personal experiences and so forth. We've come to this, our personal experiences, good and bad. Many of us with bad experience and so forth. We've been rejected by other groups. And so we've all gathered together in a pity party to not so. We have been seeking, asking, and knocking. And the door has opened and the light is on. And we are looking to see more and more. And we've just come to the edge, it seems. Those of us who've been walking for a while, it still just seems that we're in the edge. There is much, much more there. And we want those behind to follow us. The next generation, the generation to come, we want them to follow if the Lord tarries. If not, that's fine. We'll all go together. But if He tarries, we want them to follow in these things, and we want them to see more, because we've not come into concrete, into a static place where we're going to have our feet embedded and we can't move any further. Okay, we've arrived now. Not so, not so. There is more light. In that light, we see light. So, brethren, give careful attention to it. Don't look away. Continue to look. And let that light continue to increase in you. God's grace and peace to you, brethren. Brother Robert will now lead in our exhortation.